Very good afternoon. It's Jim from Avstyle. Nobody is asking the big question, and nobody is demanding the answers to that big question. I'll get into it. How many different species are on this planet right now? I bet you, even in your imagination, wherever you are and whatever world you're living in, or whatever your circumstances are, you're going to have the same answer as me. There are millions of different species. We go through the insects, we go through the animal kingdom, we can go through the, reptilians, this, that and the other species. We have millions and millions of different creatures on our planet. But why are we the only ones that are making life so hard for ourselves? Think about this. We are the only one in the room in, say, 10 million that is doing something different. Now, if that was the case of just human beings being 10 million human beings and one's doing something different, we would say that's an abnormal species, or that's an abnormal person. But we're not accepting that fact. There's something that's been pulled over our eyes, guys, here. We're being treated like slaves in this world, because every other species is allowed to go about its business as normal. The birds can put their nests in whatever single tree, anywhere in this world. They're able to fly whenever they want and say, that's my home. There is no planning permission, there is no planning consent, there is no work orders needed, no work permits, none of that nonsense. We're the only species that are behaving like this, and for that fact, we are the only species on this planet that is abnormal. Because you can't point a finger when you're the only person in the room amongst 10 million others that are doing something else different and say, you are all crazy. I'm the only sane person here. You can't do that. Why aren't people thinking like this right now? What the hell has happened? How have we devolved so much to put ourselves in such a predicament where we cannot even choose where we live? Where did the term ownership come into this? You're born into this world. This is our natural inheritance. If I lived like the other 10 million species, I would be able to build my house wherever I wanted and say, piss off. Mind your own business. I'm doing what I do naturally. How did we get to this point in time, and how can that be classed as an advancement when it is such a disadvantage to be a human being amongst the species on this planet? Yet we are supposed to be the stewards on the planet and control the rest of it. Where did this happen, and how did it happen, and why is it like this? It's ridiculous. We are being used like batteries. Yeah, you're allowed a little bit of time to recharge on the night when you go to sleep. You're allowed, and some people ain't even allowed that. They starve. And some people work themselves to death, and I've heard stories of that as well, where this one woman was working 3 jobs and she collapsed at work through exhaustion and died. We're the only species on this planet that is dysfunctional right now. And I don't care about any politician, whatever you want, I don't care. I'm just saying, recognise the fact that we are the only one species out of the 10 billion species that is making life so hard for ourselves. You know, fuck all this technology. Fuck it. I really would throw it all in the bin right now just to have a peaceful life. You know what? If you don't pay your electric bill, guess what they do? They cut you off. If you live in a city, you need electricity. You know, if you've got a fridge freezer, you know, you need to buy frozen food. Why do we buy frozen food? To last. So that we can have it at a later date, you know, and it has kept some of its, you know, nutrients. It hasn't gone off, it hasn't rotted, it hasn't developed bacteria. But you've got no electricity, you've got no fridge. You've got no electricity, you've got no internet. You've got no internet, you lose your contact and connections with everybody that you normally talk to. You know, we are being held to ransom by everything in this world. Absolutely everything. The energy companies hold us to ransom. You don't pay your bill, we'll cut you off. Are you kidding me? You'll cut me off because I've got no money at this point in time. Yeah, we will. We'll cut you off. Your gas bill. It's the winter. It's minus 10 degrees. You ain't paid your bill. We're cutting you off. Are you serious? You're going to do that? You know what? We have put our trust in this system that has completely and utterly failed, and will continue to do that. And you know why it will continue to do that? Because we live in a monetary system. The capital system. And that requires you to access money. That means you exchange your labour, your time, for a certain amount of coins each hour. And that will allow you, at the end of the month, to pay your bills. That will allow you to have a roof over your head. But the big problem is here. It's like I've been showing people, and you know what annoyed me yesterday? Someone said, oh, that's CGI, you know, from Boston Dynamics. I don't give a fuck whether it is or not. Have you seen Optimus and its capabilities? It's already been rolled out. In £19,000 sterling, you can own one of them. You are being written out of your ability to participate in a monetary system, and you don't even know it. Most of you don't even know it. Most of you would never have thought about the fact that you are one species that has to deal with all this stuff, where everybody else in the kingdom of biodiversity just goes about the business as normal. Laughing, must be laughing at us, saying, oh my God, you know, this is the only person in the room that is behaving different to us, and look how hard it is for them. Whoa, would we not want to be human beings, but rather a cockroach? That's where we are right now. I really don't know what to say. If circumstances were better, I would say roll on, Elon Musk, carry on. You know what, let's get robotics in there, because when I was growing up at school some, you know, many years ago, 40 years ago, you know, I was under the belief that, you know, we would have all these technologies and we wouldn't have to work. And it's far from that fucking vision. Trust me. Because we're working harder than we ever have to. You know, poor pensioners all around the world. And you know what? I was shocked. You know, it really ruined my outlook on the trip I went to when I went to the Gran Canaria and saw how the pensioners was living. They were literally going through the bins, guys. What the fuck have we done to our civilization? You know, our category of a spectrum of that biodiversity that is on our earth. What the hell have we done to allow it to get to this point in time where we are held to ransom for, you don't pay your rent, you're out on the street. You're out on the street, that makes it really hard. You're what's going to happen next? Your hygiene's going to deteriorate. You may end up stinky a little bit. And then when you go for an interview and the person that's interviewing you is like getting a waft of that smell of the streets, you ain't going to get a job because of that. Because they don't want their customers to smell you. We live in a complete and utterly fucked up world. It's broken beyond any comparison. And you know what? I'm probably going to get penalised for using the F word a lot in this, and I apologise. I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, because some people might have this video playing while they're doing the chores in the kitchen. They've got children around, and I really apologise for that. I don't want to swear in front of women and children. I'm an old-fashioned guy when it comes to that. But my goodness me, what has become of our life when we have allowed it to get to this point? I'm following a couple, and I believe they're living in Alaska on an island somewhere, and they've got no money. They are they're gaining subscribers, and I know that they're going to get some donations for it, and good luck to them, because they're living in one of the harshest environments on our planet during winter, and they've got no running hot water, no running cold water into the house. It's all bailed in there, but they're doing it, and they've just brought some goats. You might even know, you might have even subscribed to them yourselves, and they've just brought some goats. But you know what? They fed the water to the goats before they fed it to themselves. And you can see that the guy hasn't got much mechanical or technical knowledge, but you know what? He's doing it. And that is absolutely amazing. Because, when we all fall over, we eventually pick ourselves up, don't we? And the real sad thing about, the scenario that we are living in today, with this 10 million species enjoying their life, enjoying the radiance of the sun, whilst most of us are in offices or in a factory or wherever, having to, commit our time so that we can just about get through to the next week. We'll have spent what we've earned this month very shortly, and we'll be begging for a bit of overtime. Where are we going from here? Have you asked the big question? Why are we making it so hard for ourselves when we proclaim to be intelligent, and all the other species, all the 10 million other species on this planet, don't have to apply for planning permission? They can put their house wherever they want it. Ants, insects, cockroaches, you name it. How come it's harder for a human being than a cockroach in this planet? Are we slaves for something? And if we are, then we need to realise that and say, fuck the hell off. I'm not your slave anymore. You can fuck off with your policies and your laws and your regulations and your rules. I have had enough of it. Shove it all up your arsehole until it comes out your fucking mouth, and then I will ram it back up your arsehole. Do you ever get that feeling? People are getting angry right now of the situation of the world that we're living in, and we've had totally enough of it. You know what? If we're the most intelligent species on the planet, why is it a million times harder for us as a human being to live in this world as it is any other creature? Why? Because I'd be happy right now to exchange, if I could do an exchange for my life for a bird, I'd be, out there, whatever bird species, doesn't matter. I'd just be happy to do it. You know what? Sit on the branch of a tree, enjoying the basking sun. You know what? Have a little mooch round for a worm or, some seeds. I'd be happy with that. You know what? No one's going to turf me off the branch because I haven't paid my council tax bill. You know what? If I need to travel, I'll fly. I haven't got to put fuel in my wings. You know what? I've got these things, I'll flap them. Everything else is in this world is at some sort of a peace. Apart from, when it comes to interacting with humans or humans interacting into their or interfering with their inhabitants. You know what? You cannot disagree with me on this. We are insane. We're the lunatics on this planet. All of us. Because we created all these rules. And you know what? It's made life miserable. I'd rather be with the 10 million, not with the one in the room. And you can't deny what I've just said, because any logic person would agree with what I've just said. If it's good for the 10 million or more species out there across the range, why ain't it good for us? What have we done that we have to pay so much for? How can it be so bad that, enjoying technology should be a privilege, but it isn't? It's a burden. Because it's a nice thing to have, but if you can't afford to pay for it, you can't have it. What the hell? How did it get to this point? Before I end the video, I just want to say thank you to a few people for the donations and the messages. I think you know where I'm coming from. There's a link down there if you want to help support us. Entirely up to you. That's what you should do. As always, bye for now. In the courtroom, the judge asks, Jean, why have you not paid taxes this year? Jean replies, that's because I'm a magpie. What do you mean by that? The judge asks. Well, if man can call himself a woman and it be accepted, then I can call myself a magpie. Okay, the judge says, continue with your defence. Why haven't you paid your taxes? Well, simply because no other magpie has paid their taxes. Am I right in saying that? Have you been successful in claiming any of the taxes off any other magpies in this world? If not, then why should I be the first?